According to a recent report from CBS Sports, 4 different NFL talent evaluators told one of their reporters that they think Kenny Pickett, the quarterback of the Pittsburgh Steelers, can be quote-unquote fixed by the end of the 2024 NFL season. So today on Steelers Talk, we're going to be talking about just that. Can Kenny Pickett be fixed? And if he can, what is his ceiling as a starter in the National Football League? I'm going to give you guys my take on this throughout today's show. But first, do me a favor, get down there in the comment section and let me know. Do you think Kenny Pickett can be fixed after 2 really rough seasons to start his NFL season? Give me a yes or give me a no to kick off today's show. With that, let's get into it. It's no secret that Kenny Pickett, the quarterback of the Pittsburgh Steelers, has had a rough go of it to start his NFL career. Now, of course, he was in Matt Canada's offense for the first 2 years, so that definitely didn't do him any favors. But you take a look at these numbers here and these advanced metrics from Kenny Pickett's second season, and you can really see things started to go off the rails for the second-year quarterback, right? The touchdown percentage, 42nd in the National Football League at just 1.9%. That shows you just how bad he is in the red zone, or at least he was last year. The interception percentage was the kind of the one lone spot there where it shows a little bit of optimism. Just 1.2% of his passes ended up getting intercepted. His big-time throw percentage, though, 25th in the league. His passer rating was below the 32nd rank there. So there's backups that had better passer ratings than Kenny Pickett in 2023. The EPA, 35th in the league, and then he was 31st in overall points above replacement, only worth 6 points for the Pittsburgh Steelers offense throughout the entirety of the season, according to that metric. So was it more on Kenny Pickett? Was it more on Matt Canada? Or was it some sort of combination of both? Well, Aditi Kinkambwala from CBS Sports talked on Pittsburgh radio last week, and this is what she had to say about what she had, what kind of conversation she had with NFL talent evaluators around the National Football League. I messaged multiple people. If you were given the opportunity to quote-unquote fix Kenny Pickett, could you do it? All 4 of them talked about everything around him and not him. Continued to say here, 4 different offensive minds in the National Football League that I trust implicitly and feel very strongly about. All 4 of them thought it's not really about Kenny, it's about everything around him. Now, to me, I don't think that it's an either or situation here. I don't think it's either all Matt Canada's fault or all Kenny Pickett's fault, all right? I'm somebody that believes that 2 things can be true at once, all right? A, Matt Canada was absolutely terrible as an offensive play caller, an offensive play designer. He had no feel in terms of offensive play calling, what plays to call at the right time, any of that. And it definitely didn't do Kenny Pickett any favors. However, despite that, in the conclusion, Pickett was not good in the areas that he could control that had nothing to do with the play calling or the offensive structure or anything like that. And it's very possible, at least to me, that both Matt Canada and Kenny Pickett both stink, all right? It's not an either-or situation. It's not like Kenny has to be good and Matt ruined him, or Kenny stinks and and Kenny ruined Matthew Canada. Both of these guys stunk last year, all right, guys? I don't think it's an either-or situation, and the reason why I say that is because I've seen the film. I've seen every single snap of the Pittsburgh Steelers 2023 season on offense, and it's seriously concerning, at least to me, as somebody that has watched every single snap of all 22 film on Kenny Pickett's career. Now, I have 8 things on my list that I'm concerned about when it comes to Kenny Pickett, all right? And makes me feel like maybe he can't be fixed moving forward in the National Football League. The first thing that I have a problem with is poor vision and mental processing, all right? Even going back to the draft process, he had one of the lowest Wonderlic scores for a QB in recent memory. It was the second lowest in that quarterback class with a score of 17 out of 50. All right, Malik Willis almost doubled that score, and we know how bad he is at mental processing. Kenny Pickett had a 17. The only guy with a lower score was Matt Corral. And how's his NFL career going right now? Not too good. And listen, man, the Wonderlic score, maybe it doesn't tell you everything about a quarterback's mental makeup and football IQ, but what it does and what the Wonderlic tries to emulate is it tries to get people to solve problems quickly. And it really is a test for mental processing and how quickly are able to solve problems. And Kenny Pickett, especially when you look at his film, I mean, that score absolutely makes sense because he does not He does not figure out problems. He doesn't anticipate space against zone. He doesn't figure out problems quickly, and he can't get through a full field progression read. And then that really does concern me moving forward. And then what's even worse is that even when he does have a guy in his sights wide open down the field, sometimes he'll just miss him. He'll just miss wide open guys, and that's just not acceptable in the National Football League. If there's open receivers that are schemed open for you, you got to hit them. And Matt Canada, we all know, he didn't do it all that much with this team last year. And Kenny Pickett just didn't get to his guys enough last year, and that concerns me a lot. Number 2, we got pocket presence, all right? And you guys have heard me talk about Kenny Pickett's pocket presence for the last 2 years here and how terrible it is. There's clean pockets, and if his first or second read is not there, he's bailing out of the pocket to try to make a play with his legs. And that's just not something that's sustainable for a guy like Kenny Pickett who doesn't have special abilities as a rusher. I like his ability outside the pocket. We'll talk about that later in today's show, but if there's a clean pocket, you got to stick in there, you got to hang tough, and you got to make the throws. Number 3, the accuracy issues were definitely on display in 2023. His accuracy numbers actually got worse from his rookie season to his sophomore season. And you take a look at these metrics right here. 37th in completion percentage, but he was also 31st or 34th in average depth of target. All right, so what that means is that he was a check down machine, and he was still 37th in completion percentage in 2023. How does that even happen? How is that even possible? All right, the adjusted completion percentage, 39th in the National Football League, and then the true accuracy metrics there, catchable percentage and on-target percentage. On target's a little bit better, I guess, but it's still below average. These numbers are just not good enough, and for a guy that doesn't have elite arm strength, that isn't an elite rusher of the football, he needs to be accurate. And last year, he just wasn't, and he wasn't even throwing the ball down the field. And if you're a Steelers fan, this has to concern you if you're trying to evaluate Kenny Pickett's future in this league. Then number 4, the red zone efficiency was just straight up garbage, all right? Plain and simply. His accuracy numbers actually went down in the red zone, which just can't happen. Plain and simply. 29th in the league in catchable ball percentage in the red area, 60.7% on target percentage. That is abysmal. The touchdown rate in the red zone, 9.4. That's 35th in the National Football League. There's backup quarterbacks playing better in the red zone than Kenny Pickett, all right? His quarterback rating was 28th, and then points above replacement. He was a negative value for the Pittsburgh Steelers on offense when they were in the red zone. Negative 4.2 points was his worth. That's 26th in the National Football League. That's just not going to cut it, guys. It's just not. Then we get to number 5 on my list here, which is that he doesn't have those physical traits that you look at with guys like Josh Allen, with guys like Patrick Mahomes, guys like Justin Herbert, where they have like a rocket arm, or they have really special playmaking ability outside the pocket, or they can run with the football, or they got incredible size. Kenny Pickett is about average height, average size. He's got a decent arm, and then he's a decent athlete, right? There's just nothing special about the kid, and that definitely concerns me, especially given the accuracy issues that we're seeing on his film. Another thing that concerns me is his anticipation versus zone coverage. This is why we saw a lot more zone coverage versus the Steelers offense this year, is because defenses figured out that Kenny Pickett just doesn't anticipate open windows. And this goes back to the Wonderlic score, knowing when guys are going to be open, knowing what coverage he's seeing in the field. He just doesn't see coverages very well. He can't figure out problems, and he doesn't have solutions to those problems. And if you're a quarterback in the National Football League and you want to win Super Bowls, you have to be able to do that. Then another thing that he struggles with is throwing over the middle of the field, specifically to in-breakers. Like, there would be a number of times on his film this year where George Pickens was coming in on a backside dig or something, wide-ass open across the middle of the field, and he would overthrow him by like 3 or 4 yards, and he didn't even have a shot at him. I mean, that's just not acceptable for an NFL quarterback. If there's a wide-open receiver streaking across the middle of the field, especially like George Pickens, you have to hit him right on the face to give him a shot to run with the football. Kenny Pickett did not do that enough. That's why Mason Rudolph had so much success when he came in, because he actually got the ball to George Pickens and was an accurate passer over the middle of the field. And then finally here, rough pre-snap blitz recognition. Now, what does this mean? This means that defenses knew they could send creeper blitzes at Kenny Pickett, and he would have no idea he was hot. I mean, his pre-snap recognition, once again, this goes back to the Wonderlic. This goes back to the mental processing. He doesn't know what he's seeing in an opposing defense. He can't recognize the blitz. He can't recognize when they're shifting. He can't recognize if they're in zone or man most of the time, and that's definitely not a good thing if you are a young quarterback in this league, and that's going to be really, really tough to get out of his game moving forward. And think about this, guys, all right? So you had Kenny Pickett for most of the season, and it just wasn't good whatsoever. And then his third-string quarterback comes in, Mason Rudolph, with the same weapons, the same offensive line, and the same playbook, by the way, and he plays so much better than him. Don't you think that's a little bit weird? And don't you think that might show you that Kenny Pickett just isn't it if a third-string backup quarterback is coming in and having way more success than he ever had in that same exact offense with the same exact players? I mean, come on now. Let's do a little bit of critical thinking here. But, you know, to be fair, there are some things that I do like about Kenny Pickett's game, all right? I do like the intangibles and his leadership ability for sure, all right? That's the thing that the Steelers really like about him. I like that he's played arguably his best football in the tightest of moments in the clutch. But, I mean, you can't just play in the clutch all the time, guys. You got to play in the first three quarters as well, and he just doesn't do that very well. But I digress here. We'll also go to his playmaking instincts. Once he gets outside the pocket, he's actually pretty decent, and he's a pretty darn good passer on the run. So if there's one thing he actually does well is that he does get outside the pocket, and he does do a good job in terms of throwing the football on the run. But, man, all the nuances of the game with touch, with mental processing, with everything that goes into being a consistent down-to-down pro quarterback, I'm just not seeing it from Kenny Pickett, and it's going to be really, really tough to get all of those issues out of Kenny Pickett's game in just one season. Now, coming up here, I'm going to let you know, can Kenny Pickett be fixed? I mean, guessing by my list there of positives and negatives, I'm guessing you can probably guess what I'm going to say. But before we get into that, let's have a word from our sponsor here at Fanatics. You can check out chatsports.com/throwback right now. That's our link to get this awesome throwback helmet t-shirt available on the Fanatics website right now. The offseason is the perfect time to take advantage of these kinds of deals because, I mean, the football season's over. These websites and these companies want to move their products so they have lower prices. If you love Steelers gear, you want to add to your collection right now, you can go chatsports.com/throwback to get this t-shirt in your closet today. I actually ordered this with our special link here with Fanatics because we got such a great price on it. I think it's an awesome t-shirt. I think that you'll love it too. Go to chatsports.com/throwback before they all run out in your size. So now where I'm at with Kenny Pickett, okay, is I'm very skeptical that he can be quote-unquote fixed in the way that he needs to be fixed to be a potential Super Bowl winning quarterback for this organization. Because let's face it, man, it's not good enough for Kenny Pickett to just make those progress points and just become an average quarterback, all right? The goal for any NFL franchise is to get a quarterback that can lead a team to Super Bowls, all right? Not just get a team to a Super Bowl when they have an incredible roster, somebody that has enough talent, if they're making $35, $40 million a year and they're eating up most of the cap space for that team that year, can they still lead a team to potential Super Bowls? I do not believe Kenny Pickett has the kind of talent to do this, and when the time comes to potentially pay Kenny Pickett a second contract in this league, pay him $30, $35, $40 million plus dollars per season, are the Steelers going to have enough talent on the roster to really compete? And I really don't think Kenny Pickett can compete with all the star quarterbacks in the AFC today. Guys like Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, if he starts getting going with Jim Harbaugh there in L.A. I mean, there's so many good quarterbacks in the AFC conference. I just don't think Kenny Pickett is talented enough to really compete with these guys, especially when the Steelers are going to have to eventually pay him $30, $35, $40 million on his second contract. I just don't see it with Kenny Pickett, even if he makes the proper steps to become a decent starting quarterback in this league. And listen, I think that Arthur Smith's offense coming in here, super quarterback friendly. It's going to give him simple reads. It gives Kenny Pickett the best possible shot to be like a decent back or to be a decent starting quarterback in this league. Now, do I think it's going to happen? I'm not too sure because of all those problems we laid out. I'm not sure if he's going to be able to get over all of those things. But at the end of the day, I think that his ceiling is an average NFL starting quarterback. All right, and that's like a Ryan Tannehill. We're hoping that he's like a Ryan Tannehill type quarterback when we could be going out and trying to get somebody with a higher upside, somebody like a Justin Fields, somebody like a Russell Wilson that has already won a Super Bowl and is still playing arguably at a top 10 level. He was top 10 in passer rating just last year, and you can get him for the vet minimum. Instead, we're sticking with a guy in Kenny Pickett that wasn't even performing as well as some backups in the National Football League last year, and it just feels like this guy's never going to get there. He's never going to get to that level where you can pay him $35, $40+ million per season and still lead this team to Super Bowls in the long run. Now, I hope I'm wrong. I like the kid. I hope that they're able to quote-unquote fix him. But when I hear these kinds of reports that people think that he can be quote-unquote fixed, I mean, I'm just trying to look at what I've seen on film, and I'm like, what are they seeing that I'm not? Because I'm seeing a lot of problems. I'm seeing mental processing issues. I'm seeing vision issues. I'm seeing accuracy issues. I'm seeing inefficiencies in the red zone. I'm seeing an inability to target the middle of the field, especially against zone coverage. I'm seeing a bunch of stuff on his film that's just not good and has very little to do with the play calling, by the way, that just makes me think that this guy's going to end up being a bust. And if we go with him again, it just feels like you're going to waste another year of T.J. Watt, another year of Minkah Fitzpatrick, another year of all the talent that we have collected on this roster to this point. And I really do think this team would be better served if they went out and got a different quarterback this offseason. But let me know down there in the comments section. Will Kenny Pickett be the Steelers' QB1, not for next season, but the year after that? This next season, will he prove himself to be the franchise quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers? Type S if you think he's going to start in 2025, 2 years from now, or type B if you think he's going to be a bust and he's going to be a backup quarterback from this point forward. So now tomorrow, I've told you guys why I don't want Kenny Pickett, but I'm going to go over the two quarterbacks that I think the Steelers could potentially get and could really be fantastic for this organization heading into 2024. I'll be talking about Justin Fields and Russell Wilson, breaking down the pros and cons of their games and why the Pittsburgh Steelers should consider going and getting them this offseason to be their starting quarterback moving forward. Now, if you're a real one, you made it to the end of today's show. Today was a little bit of a longer one. I kind of ranted a little bit. Thank you guys so much for sticking around. Make sure you guys click or make sure you guys put real one in all caps down there in the comments section. If you're a real one, made it to the end of the show, I really appreciate your support. And if you made it to the end of today's video, that means that you probably enjoyed yourself. And if you did that, we have videos like this every single day right here on YouTube, 100% free. We are the largest Steelers talk show anywhere on YouTube, thanks to you guys. So make sure you join our family right now for nonstop Steelers coverage all throughout the 2024 offseason.